Good morning. I'll call this public hearing to order, and we will begin with remarks by Chief Financial Officer Brad Johnson.
Good morning, Board. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the Board, Mr. Superintendent, the 2019 General Fund budget was approved by the Cobb County School Board on May 2018. Included in this budget was a continuation of the same general fund millage rate as the year before at a rate of 18.9 mils. This means that from a millage rate perspective, the school board did not raise the millage tax rate. Administration is proposing to maintain the existing 18.9 general fund millage rate. The Cobb County School District has a long history of keeping property taxes low. The following are several statistics. The Cobb County Board of Education has kept the general fund millage rate the same at 18.9 mils since 2007. Number two, the last change in the general fund millage rate was a millage decrease in 2007 from 19 mils to 18.9 mils. Number three, the Cobb County Board of Education completely eliminated the debt service millage in 2007 from 0.9 mils to 0 mils. This decision resulted in the school district being completely free of long-term debt since 2007. Number four, during the budget shortages that began in 2006, the board never utilized the option of increasing the general fund millage rate. Included in the 2019 budget that the board approved was a 6% estimate of net property digest value growth in Cobb County. I am pleased to present to the board that the actual property digest growth in the Cobb County Tax Assessor's reports was a net growth of 8.21%. It is important to note that a completely separate entity, the Cobb County Tax Assessor, assesses property values annually in Cobb County. If the tax assessor lowers the value of a Cobb citizen's home, the district's millage rate will be applied to the lower value, and the property owner will pay less property tax. If the tax assessor increases the value of a Cobb County citizen's home, the district's same 18.9 millage rate will be applied to the higher property value, and that property owner will pay more in property taxes. In either case, though, the school district millage rate is still 18.9 mils, and our general fund millage tax rate has not increased. Georgia law currently contains a provision which was originally called the Georgia Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which in essence states that in a year when the property value digest increases, which it did this year, school districts must hold 3 public hearings for citizen input, because even if the district's millage rate remains the same, the school district will receive additional property tax revenue because of the increased property values assessed by the Cobb County Tax Assessor. Per an extremely detailed Georgia law, the district is scheduled to conduct 3 public hearings on this matter, and our schedule has to comply with their timing requirements. The meeting schedule is as follows. Today is the first meeting at 11 o'clock today in the boardroom. Meeting number 2 will be July 19th at 12 noon, and meeting number 3 will be July 19th at 6:30 p.m. in the boardroom. The district is scheduled to establish the general fund millage rate on July 19th, 2018 at the 7 o'clock board meeting voting session in the boardroom. Mr. Chairman, that is my presentation for this public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Johnson? Okay. Mr. Sweeney?
Mr. Johnson, you made a specific point about talking about net growth digest. Can you describe how that, in simple terms, how that net number is derived? Because I think people understand that the tax digest across the county is increased by 9.1%, but our net growth only yields about 8.21. Can you explain that delta?
Absolutely. So the property values in Cobb County are assessed by the tax assessor, and that would be called the gross digest, which is different from the net digest. The Cobb County School District has an array of property tax exemptions. Some of the biggest ones are the age 62 and the homestead exemption, but there's others as well. And what that does is that brings down the gross digest to a net digest. And that's when I refer to the net digest growth, that is the money that the school district actually receives after subtracting the exemptions.
And thank you. And I just wanted to make that point because I think a lot of people in the community are hearing that there's been a digest growth of 9.1%, thinking that the school district benefits from the entirety of that growth. But you just answered the question. Thank you.
It's a very good question.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr.
Let me add on to your point, Mr. Sweeney, about, and Brad, feel free to jump in here. One of the things, too, to take note of is when we put together the budget to present to the board, the digest growth is forecasted by financial services. So it's not like we have a budget and then all of a sudden 8.2% more money comes in. We have forecasted what that digest growth is going to be. And the ability and skill of financial services, I know we always give accolades to them, and it's well-deserved because if they don't budget, if they don't forecast conservatively, then we, unfortunately, like some other school districts and even other entities and organizations, when you forecast too liberally and that doesn't come to fruition, then you're in the position of having to cut immediately. You don't have the ability to plan. So again, kudos to Brad and all the financial services for being dead on. I would much rather be faced with the situation of having more revenue coming in than less revenue coming in a forecasted position.
Thank you, Mr. Exel. Mr. Banks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Johnson, to add on to and looking at the future, we've got two significant pieces of property, which is Brumby and Mountain View, which won't be in this year's digest, but should be in next year's digest. Is that correct?
There are property sales. Is that
Yes.
what you're referring to? So
When we sell Brumby, which we already have, and Mountain View, but have they been closed?
yeah, and we will yield the property tax revenue
Right
from
now,
that in the
they're
next year.
non-taxable entities, and once the final closing takes place, they become into commercial properties.
And I don't have a number on that, but those are fairly big properties, so we should
Yeah.
realize a net increase in property tax revenue.
And so we also have a lot of commercial growth going on in the county too. So next year should be at least 6%, maybe even higher again. So I think we're in good shape as far as the 18.9 being maintained for the future and giving us some flexibility.
Well, a net digest growth of 8.21 is better than we've seen because back not many years ago, we saw it go -9, almost negative 10%. So this is really good news to stabilize the school district a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. Let's move on to public comments. Mr. Doyle, have we got anybody signed up? No. Okay, since there aren't any, let's wait to 11:20. Is that good? And before we adjourn, just wait and see. So I don't know if that's recess or whatever you call it.
You could recess, and you could also make adjournment automatic if we don't have anyone show up, so that we don't have to bring everyone back up to the table.
Let's do
If you
that.
like.
Okay, we'll follow that. If there's no objection, we'll be adjourned at 11:20 if there are no speakers.